India's voice to the world, Rana, coming up in the next hour. 2611 mastermind Rana extradited from US for his role in deadly Mumbai attack to reach national capital in a short while. Multi-agency team to interrogate him. Indian President Draupadi Murmu to attend Slovakia-India Business Forum, aim to deepen cooperation and new initiatives. Amid global pushback, US President Trump unveils 90-day pause on tariffs for most countries. Hits China harder with 125%. Global markets make historic gains. Trump reiterates threat to use military force if Iran does not agree to nuclear deal. Says Israel would play a key role. Dominican Republic ends search for nightclub collapse survivors. Death toll near to 200 in the Caribbean nation's worst disaster in decades. President declares 3 days of national mourning. And on to the details now. The Rana, accused of masterminding the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, has been extradited from the United States and is expected to arrive in India on Thursday, accompanied by a special team of intelligence and NIA officials. The extradition comes after the US Supreme Court recently rejected the Rana's last appeal, essentially clearing the way for his handover to Indian authorities. Rana, a Pakistani origin Canadian businessman, is known to have been an active operative of the terror outfit Lashkar-e-Taiba and played a pivotal role in facilitating travel documents for David Coleman Headley. The Rana and David Headley were detained by the FBI at the Chicago airport in October 2009. And the Indian government has appointed Advocate Narendra Maan as the special public prosecutor for the National Investigation Agency NIA in the 2611 Mumbai terror attack. Narendra Maan will represent the NIA in special courts and appellate courts in Delhi. The appointment is made for a period of 3 years or till the completion of the trial, or whichever is earlier. Well, so who is the Rana and what is the case against him? Let's take a look.
Tahawur Rana holds Canadian citizenship and has Pakistani origins. He faces charges in India for his involvement in the 2008 Mumbai attacks and was found guilty in the US for aiding Lashkar-e-Taiba. India is seeking his extradition for his role in the 2611 attacks. Rana assisted David Headley, a co-conspirator in the attack, who held US citizenship and Pakistani heritage. Rana provided Headley with false credentials to help him scout targets for the attack. In January this year, the US Supreme Court rejected Tahawur Rana's petition, and that was quickly followed up by Senator Rubio authorizing Rana's extradition in February. Later on, US President Donald Trump announced the extradition of Tahawur Rana to India, adding that he would face justice. He made the announcement during a joint press conference with Prime Minister Narendra Modi following their bilateral meeting. Rana's defense filed for more documents on February 13. On February 19, the court denied his request to delay the extradition. Again, the Ninth Circuit rejected his appeal on February 21. Rana filed an emergency request with the US Supreme Court within a week, which was also rejected on March 5, 2025. And on April 7, the US Supreme Court again rejected his plea for a stay on his extradition to India.
And President Draupadi Murmu is in Slovakia on a state visit. President Murmu and President Pellegrini will jointly inaugurate the India-Slovak Business Forum on Thursday and visit the Jaguar Land Rover assembly plant in Nitra, marking a significant milestone in economic cooperation between the two countries. Earlier, on the first day of a visit on Wednesday, President Murmu held talks with Slovak counterpart in Bratislava and held several important high-level meetings. Leaders reviewed various facets of India-Slovakia ties and witnessed the exchange of two MOUs. Slovakian President Peter Pellegrini announced the country's full support for India's bid to become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, highlighting the long-standing and growing relationship between Slovakia and India. President Murmu's visit is the first by an Indian head of state to Slovakia in nearly 30 years. It is expected to further strengthen the political and economic ties between the two nations. The visit underscores the growing partnership between India and Slovakia with a focus on expanding trade, investment and cooperation in various sectors. And we're joined by Ajay Joy, a correspondent from the capital city of Slovakia, Bratislava, to get us a better understanding on the outcomes of the first day. Well, Ajay, as India-Slovak relations are entering new heights, how can we assess the first day?
Yes, exactly. The first day of the tour was really a momentous one. We can say the interest of both the countries are aligned, and we have a better future of moving from a transaction mode towards much more collaborative mode, it must be said. If you look at the MOU signed yesterday, one significantly was on MSME cooperation, where both India and Slovakia are pinning their hope for further advancement. And as the day progresses, India and Slovak had more discussions on in the defense sector, in terms of the IT engagements, in terms of the technology collaborations. So everything seems very promising for next level of India-Slovak relations. If you look at the engagements yesterday, Indian President could meet with Slovak counterpart, and then she had a meeting with National Assembly, National Council Speaker, and then with Prime Minister himself. So all big level meetings happened yesterday, and we really hope for a great promising relation further also.
All right, Ajay. Also, as you said, the second day will witness more business-level meetings. What all programs are lined up for today, and what all sectors we can focus to make India-Slovak relations to better heights?
Yes. Today it will be focusing more on the business side. India and Slovak business people will sit down for discussion to further map their development ahead in India-Slovak Business Forum, which will be opened jointly by Indian President and her Slovak counterpart. And thereafter, they will be moving together to the city of Nitra, where the university there will accord an honorary degree to Indian President, our Rashtrapati. Thereafter, both the presidents will be visiting the largest JLR factory, Jaguar Land Rover factory here in Slovakia, which is India's interest as well, because that's one of the largest investment by Tata Group in Slovakia, which produces almost 30 to 35% of their global business, in fact. So that's one significant part of that. And this visit will be concluded by both head of states by afternoon today. But main point we shall note will be their engagements in the industrial side, how much we can leverage the developments by the Slovakian industrial bodies, and how much we can market our fintech products, how much we can market our IT products. That will decide the next level of our relations.
All right, Ajay, thank you so much for all those details. And going back to our top story, Rana, accused of masterminding the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, has been extradited from the United States and is expected to arrive in India on Thursday, accompanied by a special team of intelligence and NIA officials. The extradition comes after the US Supreme Court recently rejected Rana's last appeal, essentially clearing the way for his handover to Indian authorities. Rana, Pakistani origin Canadian businessman, is known to have been an active operative of the terror outfit Lashkar-e-Taiba and played a pivotal role in facilitating travel documents for David Coleman Headley. Rana and David Headley were detained by the FBI at the Chicago airport in October 2009. And for more on this, Shishishela joins us from Mumbai and Vishal Barasto joins us from Delhi. Well, Vishal, given the high-profile nature of the 2008 Mumbai attacks and Rana's alleged involvement, what are the next steps for the Indian authorities in handling this case?
Well, absolutely, Lepakshi. I'm standing just outside the Palam Technical Airport, and we are expecting Tahvur Rana to reach here after between 12 and 1 p.m. and 16 hours is a long flight. He is flying from Los Angeles. He is accompanied by the National Investigating Agency officials and also SWAT, which is the Special Weapon and Tactics Commando Unit of the Delhi Police. And the moment he lands here, he would be handed over to NIA. NIA would arrest him and he would be taken to the special cell in Tihar jail, which has been specially prepared for this terrorist, and the security in and around Tihar jail has been beefed up. We all know that he is one of the masterminds of the Mumbai attack, and he is a key witness to all that. And with his extradition, India would be able to establish to the world how Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism against India. He has been associated with the Pakistani army, and we all know that how he was also associated with David Coleman Headley. 166 people had died in that attack. We know that Kasab was hanged to death in the Yarwada jail in Pune in 2012. And today's extradition would be a very, very big achievement for the Indian investigating agencies. So we need to wait for some more time, and the proceedings would all depend on how things proceed, because he is a very hard nut to crack. So far, he has not divulged anything. So the Indian investigating agencies are a tough task at hand. That includes the psychologists, the psychoanalysts, a lot of experts from the Delhi Police, from the National Investigating Agency. Lepakshi.
All right, a big win for India indeed. My next question to you, Shishir. How significant is Rana's extradition for India's efforts to bring justice to the victims of the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, and what does it mean for international cooperation, especially on counter-terrorism?
Well, absolutely, Lepakshi. Since morning, we are showing you those places where the 2011 attack occurred here. Right now, I'm just outside the Trident Hotel here. Well, to show these visuals here is not to recall that horrific incident, but of course to tell people that, no, look at the India, that what and how India has battled it. It was a long, legal and diplomatic battle that India has finally won. And we have seen here that the Tahvur Rana will be brought back to India, and the agency will get some more information about that particular attack. But obviously, you rightly said here that what message it goes. We have seen here that the cross-terrorism activities, the cross-border terrorism activities were quite a phenomenon that we've heard in the last few years. But now we have seen a different angle to it. Now we have seen that cross-border legal action being taken against the perpetrators of the terrorist attack. And this is one of the good example that probably we'll see that when Tahvur Rana, a key conspirator in 26/11 terror attack, will be extradited to India, and the authorities will ask those very important questions, probably will get some of the important answers that how this entire attack was carried out. And not just that, but actually who are the other kingpin and the mastermind behind this particular terror attack. Well, India has given a dossier to Pakistan in the past many a times, but we haven't got a reply. And then India has chose a path of diplomatic pressure here, and that's the reason since the current government took charge, we have seen that how this particular government have actually cornered Pakistan and actually talked about the cross-border terrorism. Ultimately, we got some result to it. The same issue we've raised in US also, in US courts also. And since 2020 till now, in last 4 years, the persistent effort of the Indian government and Indian authorities, now we have seen here that the Tariff Rana will be extradited to India. And that's the reason it's a big achievement. I'm saying it's a long legal and diplomatic battle is because, we have to understand that probably this kind of cases that we have seen here were never seen in the past in the history. And that's the reason, when we call about the persistent effort, that means the different agencies work together. They finally made a charge sheet. 1,000 pages of charge sheet been given to the US authority as well. The US court have actually seen those facts and finally given the verdict that yes, Tariff Rana is probably the main conspirator behind it and it should be extradited to India. And that's the reason this effort is actually quite important one. And that's the reason when I'm standing in front of these important places here to make people aware that finally India has done its work. It's been 17 years, but in spite of that, the justice will be brought to those people who were the victims of this 26/11 terror attack. We spoke to some of the people also, and the people said that like we have actually gave befitting reply to all those frontmen, the gunmen when they attacked Mumbai. At the same time and at same stage, we should also punish the key conspirators who probably we can see that the mind behind this 26/11 terror attack. This is one aspect. The second important aspect, that what are we going to get from Tariff Rana? The first important aspect is that we're going to get the links that how the cross-border terrorism is connected to Lashkar-e-Taiba, to the ISI and to the Pakistan. That will be exposed. The second important aspect that the people, the kingpin behind this, probably we may get some of the important names also, which were not exposed earlier, but probably through the investigation of Tariff Rana, we may get those information. So that's another important aspect. And third, that we'll be exposing Pakistan and of course the cross-border terrorism that India was talking about with the proof. So these are important aspects, from India's perspective on international platform when we talk about the cross-border terrorism also. Absolutely. And how India is affected because of this.
Absolutely. Vishal, I would like to know, as you said, the security has been beefed up. How will Advocate Narendra Man's appointment as a special public prosecutor for the NIA influence the legal proceedings in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attack case?
Well, Lepakshi, your voice is not audible, but what all I can gather is that after Tariff Rana lands here, he would be produced he would be taken into custody by the NIA officials, and he would be produced in the NIA court. But today being a government holiday, it is yet to be seen how things proceed, either because he's a top terrorist in under India's custody. So either the magistrate would go to him, or it would be a virtual proceeding. So it is all yet to be seen, but let me make it very clear, it's a big success for the Indian investigating agencies, because the American Supreme Court rejected his application. I'm talking about Tariff Rana, and after that it was clear that India will have Tariff Rana. He would be extradited along with the NIA officials to Delhi. He is not being sent to Mumbai, though the terror attack happened in Mumbai, but he would be tried here in Delhi itself, and NIA and along with other investigating agencies will interrogate him. But first it would be the NIA here in Delhi. Lepakshi?
All right. Shishir, given the involvement of both Tariff Rana and David Coleman Headley, what more can be expected in the case?
Well, absolutely. Lepakshi, we need to understand that exactly when we, the agencies put allegations that how ISI and LAT was behind it, we need substantial proof for that. Some of the information we got from David Coleman Headley, when we got his testimony also from the US court here, the Indian agencies connected those dots and gathered information. At the same time, India was also asking for Tariff Rana. Now, Tariff Rana will be extradited to India. That means we can say that how exactly Tariff Rana is connected to LAT, how the entire operation was carried out, the terror attack was carried out, and which are the people are involved in it. ISI, probably we have the Indian agency saying that the ISI is involved, L&T, Lashkar-e-Taiba is involved in it. Now we'll get a substantial proof from Tariff Rana when he give testimony that how exactly this entire horrific terror attack was carried out, and probably will be exposing that on an international platform. India was actually talking about it because India has got proof, but many a times Pakistan and other countries have asking for the what exactly proof that India does have. Now probably these kind of testimonies will pave the way for the further action from the India side, and probably we may talk about, when we talk about the cross-border terrorism, then probably this will be a substantial evidence in India's hand. When we talk about this on international platform, we'll ask for the stricter action against the cross-border terrorism.
All right. Thank you so much, Shishir and Vishal, for giving us an update on this, as the Rana is expected around 1 p.m. today in India, in Delhi. Thank you so much. And right now, time for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Rana, and moving on, in a dramatic change of policy, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs for all but China. Just hours after levies against roughly 60 of America's trading partners kicked in, Trump said he was authorizing a universal lowered reciprocal tariff of 10% as negotiations continued. At the same time, he increased tariffs on goods from China to 125%, accusing Beijing of a lack of respect. This comes a week after Trump announced imports taxes on all goods entering the U.S. in the biggest upheaval of international trade in decades. His plan set a baseline tariff of 10% on all imports, which remains in place, but also higher rates on partners the White House described as the worst offenders. This included a 27-member European Union, Vietnam, South Africa, and many more, all of which were due to be on the receiving end of U.S. tariffs ranging from 11% to more than 100%.
No, we can't imagine. I don't think I'll have to do it. I don't think we'll have to do it more. We calculated it very carefully. By the way, when you hear 100, a lot of people charge much more than that. Canada charges much more than that to our farmers, our dairy farmers. Many people charge much more than 100 or 125 in this case. But I don't. It's still a significant number. I don't see that.
Well, after the U.S. raised tariffs on China to 104%, Beijing retaliated, announcing that it will impose a levy of 84% on U.S. imports, up from 34%. China's finance ministry has announced an 84% tariff on goods imported from the U.S., retaliating against the recent levies imposed by the White House. The hike in tariffs came after Trump's 104% tariff on Chinese goods came into force on Wednesday. They were later increased to 125%. China's Commerce Ministry slapped restrictions on more than a dozen U.S. defense firms on Wednesday. Beijing added 12 U.S. companies to a control list that prohibits exports of dual-use items and another 6 to its unreliable entities list. Beijing, which has said its charges would take effect from Thursday, urged other countries to unite against Trump's tariffs as the country's exporters reel from the crippling new levies. And as Trump announced a pause on reciprocal tariff for almost all the global trading partners for 90 days, the international reactions have started to come in. South Korea's acting president, Han Duck-soo, said on Thursday that the government would seek to advance negotiations with the U.S. over tariffs in a bid to shake off the burden. The incoming German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, said that a united European approach to trade had a positive impact and that Europeans are determined to defend ourselves, and this example shows that unity helps most of all. Italy welcomed the decision by Trump to pause the tariffs for 90 days and said the group of 7 countries spoke about trying to calm the situation. Interim leader of Bangladesh, Yunus, thanked Trump to pause the tariffs as Trump had imposed 37% levies on Bangladesh. The European Union has also announced the approval of tariffs to hit around $23.2 billion of U.S. goods in response to the 25% duties on its steel and aluminium exports. Also, the United States and Vietnam have agreed to launch trade talks between each other. The Vietnamese government said that U.S. and Vietnam will work to remove as many non-tariff barriers as possible. And the global stocks rebounded strongly after U.S. President Donald Trump's stunning reversal on sweeping reciprocal tariffs. In fact, within moments of Trump's social media announcement, the Dow index surged ahead over 2,500 points along the way to a nearly 8% gain on the session. The tech-rich Nasdaq won 12.2% to notch its best day in 24 years, while the S&P 500 soared 9.5% for its biggest daily gain since 2008. Asian markets also opened with strong gains on Thursday, following Wall Street's biggest one-day rally in years. In Japan, the Nikkei was up by 7.2%, while in Seoul, the Kospi was up over 5%. In Australia, the ASX 200 jumped more than 6% at the open. This would make its biggest gain since March 2020. And for more on this, we have Akshay Dongre joining us from New Delhi. Well, Akshay, with President Trump's announcement of a 90-day pause on tariffs and a baseline 10% tariff on all the imports, how could the escalating tariff tensions between the U.S. and especially China affect the long-term global trade relations, especially for countries like the European Union or South Africa, caught in the middle somewhere?
Well, Lipakshi, it seems that this entire trade tension between the world's biggest and the second biggest economy now has not only led to a lot of tensions in the smaller countries, but also it is going to disrupt the international financial system as well. Now, besides that, there is also concerns that the skepticism that has been created by the ever-changing stance of the Trump administration will also lead to a lot of doubts and questions as far as the stability of US and the reliability of the country as the capital of the free market across the world. Also, now the countries that will be trading in with the US will take a lot of caution as far as the tensions are concerned, or the possibility of random tariffs that may come into any point of time, according to the whims and fancies of the Trump administration. So that causes a major concern for the global economic system, especially the kind of doubts that now will be created in the market, and the kind of fluctuation that we're talking about of the stock market is a clear sign of that. But coming to stock market, Lipakshi, important to inform the viewers that also the US administration is now also being faced by serious charges of stock market manipulation. The senator of Massachusetts has called for investigation into the decision that are being taken by the Trump administration, especially because 2 days back there was a leak of this news that there will be a temporary respite to the countries, and there will be a 90-day pause in tariffs. Now this news had leaked about 2 to 3 days back, but the Trump administration had denied it, and just when the news was leaked, there was a surge in buying of stocks, and the prices had surged, and suddenly they fell after the Trump administration denied any such news. For that reason, questions are being raised that whether inside trading was done as far as these major policies are concerned, and if yes, and if the investigation proved this is going to be a major scandal as far as global trade is concerned, with the administration leaking out information or denying any information that has led to significant stock fluctuations, not only in the US but across the world. So that is going to be a major point of concern. However, things are the kind of dent that has been given by these random tariffs and then hold on tariffs, then retaliatory tariffs is going to stay with the global financial system for a long time, if not forever.
Of course, it is creating a lot of volatility in the markets. Also, Akshay, given the recent tariff increases, how do you expect global trade alliances and diplomatic relationships to evolve in the coming months?
Well, we have seen that in the past especially, the trade ties between European Union, the countries of European Union and the US have been the bedrock of global financial systems. The US remains one of the strongest currency across the world. It is the world's largest economy. In terms of the GDP, in terms of the purchasing power parity, China is the world's largest economy. So clearly, we are looking at turbulent times ahead in the future as far as the clashes of these titans are concerned. As far as the tariffs and retaliatory tariffs go, they have been put in ways which has in fact put a lot of question marks on the existing system of global financial system. So the kind of retaliation we saw from Canada, coming in from European Union, and leaders saying that the country that was the closest ally of European Union has suddenly backtracked from its support and from its sort of the kind of help that it used to provide in this linkage. So clearly now new alliances, it seems, are already in the making. We have seen reports coming in that China, Japan and South Korea are trying to figure out their own trade alliances, and this push that has been given of tariffs by Donald Trump is going to speed up the multipolarity of the world that has been in the making for the past decade.
Surely a question mark on the global trade alliances. Thank you so much for giving us this information. And moving on, Vietnam and the United States agreed to start negotiations on a reciprocal trade agreement hours after Washington delayed imposing an enormous tariff on the Southeast Asian manufacturing powerhouse. The United States was Vietnam's biggest export market in the first 3 months of the year, but President Donald Trump hit it with a 46% duty as part of a global trade blitz announced last week. After Trump paused the stiff new tariffs on Wednesday, Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister Ho Duc Phuoc suggested that the two countries should soon negotiate a bilateral trade agreement to promote stable and mutually beneficial economic and trade relations, according to a statement on the government news portal. Well, the country pledged to buy more U.S. goods, including security and defense products, as it sought a reprieve. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Next round of Ukraine-US talks on minerals deal next week. Canada's political turmoil continues. An opposition leader, Lee Jae-myung, announces bid for South Korea's June 3rd presidential election amidst political turmoil. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Rana. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. 2611 mastermind Rana extradited from US for his role in deadly Mumbai attack to reach national capital in a short while. Multi-agency team to interrogate him. Indian President Draupadi Murmu to attend Slovakia-India Business Forum aimed to deepen cooperation and new initiatives. And amid global pushback, US President Trump unveils 90-day pause on tariffs for most countries, hits China harder with 125%. Global markets make historic gains. Trump reiterates threat to use military force if Iran does not agree to nuclear deal, says Israel would play a key role. And U.S. House of Representatives aim to move forward on Wednesday on a measure that would extend President Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts as a handful of hardline Republicans threaten to block a bill they say does not contain enough spending cuts. Well, members of the Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson's caucus pushed for about $2 trillion in spending cuts over 10 years, far more than was mandated in the budget passed by the Republican-controlled Senate early on Saturday. The proposed spending cuts would be coupled with around $5 trillion in tax cuts. The House could vote on it as soon as Wednesday. At least 4 House Republicans, Chip Roy of Texas, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Lloyd Smucker of Pennsylvania and Kate Self of Texas, said they plan to oppose the bill. With all 213 House Democrats expected to vote against the budget plan, Johnson can afford to lose only 3 of his 220 Republicans if all members vote. And leaders from Latin America and the Caribbean gathered in the Honduran capital of Tegucigalpa on Wednesday, urging greater cooperation and denouncing Trump's tariffs. Presidents including Brazil's Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum and Cuba's Miguel Angel Diaz-Canel attended the 9th summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States hosted by Honduras. Brazil's Lula called on member states to redefine their place in the new global order that is emerging and warned that trade wars have no winners. Host President Xiomara Castro opened the event the same day Trump announced he would temporarily lower the hefty duties. Well, at the summit, Latin American and Caribbean leaders shared proposals and concerns on cross-country ties in the region and the rest of the world. And U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday reiterated threat to the use of military force if Iran does not agree to a nuclear deal. Trump's statement came just days ahead of reported talks between the two countries. Talking to reporters, Trump added that Israel would be the leader of a military option.
But with Iran, if it requires military, we're going to have military. Israel will obviously be very much involved in that. He'll be the leader of that. But nobody leads us. We do what we want to do.
Nobody run out on the talks.
That's because when the election was rigged, I figured they'd get the weapon because...
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday said a potential deal to spin off the U.S. assets of TikTok is still on the table days after it was put on hold. Last week on Friday, Trump extended the deadline for China-based ByteDance to divest the U.S. assets of the short video app used by 170 million Americans or face a ban. The deal must be reached by June 19th, the date when the ban would take effect. Trump has twice granted a reprieve from enforcement of the ban, which was originally set to take effect in January. The deal would spin off TikTok's U.S. operations into a new company based in the U.S. and majority owned and operated by U.S. investors. The plan entails spinning off a U.S. entity for TikTok and diluting Chinese ownership. Though a major stumbling block to any deal for TikTok's U.S. business is Chinese government approval.
Obviously, I would say right now China's not exactly thrilled about signing it. We have a deal with some very good people, some very rich companies that would do a great job with it. But we're going to have to wait to see what's going to happen with China. No, it's on the table very much. I think China's going to want to do it, actually.
Well, the rescue workers in the Dominican Republic ended the search for survivors of a nightclub roof collapse as the death toll neared 200 in the Caribbean nation's worst disaster in decades. The death toll in the Caribbean nation's worst disaster in decades stood at 184. Over 300 rescue workers aided by sniffer dogs had spent 2 days combing through mounds of fallen bricks, steel bars and tin sheets, supported by firefighters from Puerto Rico and Israel. Over 500 people were also injured when the roof caved in, while renowned merengue singer Robbie Perez was performing for a crowd of hundreds. Perez and 2 former Major League Baseball players were among the dead. Meanwhile, Dominican Republic President declared 3 days of national mourning following the tragic incident. The baseball world mourned the death of the former players Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco. Tributes were also poured in from across Latin America to the renowned merengue singer Perez. A next round of Ukraine-US talks over minerals deal may take place next week. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Wednesday that the talks would focus on technical aspects and foundations of future agreement. Zelensky told reporters that the minerals deal with the US should be profitable for both sides and could be structured in a way that would help modernize Ukraine. He informed that the Ukraine's delegation would be headed by a deputy economy minister. Meanwhile, Zelensky has said that Ukrainian intelligence had information about 155 Chinese citizens fighting for the Russian military against Ukraine. He spoke to reporters after the capture of 2 Chinese nationals in eastern Ukraine, where Russian troops have been advancing. He said he hoped the United States would speak to Moscow about the battlefield deployment of Chinese citizens. For now, the president said that Ukraine was trying to assess whether the recruits were receiving instructions from Beijing. On Wednesday, China's foreign ministry dismissed Zelensky's remarks as groundless. It said Ukraine should correctly view China's efforts and constructive role in seeking a political solution to the Ukrainian crisis. And the South Sudan main opposition party, Sudan People's Liberation Movement, in opposition on Wednesday, appointed an interim chair as the party's first vice president, Riek Machar, remained under house arrest. Machar was placed under house arrest by President Salva Kiir Mayardit last month. The opposition's National Liberation Council nominated and approved Stephen Parkour, Minister of Peace Building in the Transitional Unity Government, as the interim chair until Machar is released. Post-appointment call reaffirmed party's unwavering commitment to the implementation of the 2018 peace agreement, both in letter and in spirit. And controversies reshaping Canada's election landscape as political parties swiftly remove candidates over inflammatory remarks and problematic histories. With recent incidents spotlighting sensitive issues, particularly involving Canada's influential Indian diaspora, voters are left questioning party vetting processes and representation. Here's more on the growing fallout.
In Canada, a wave of campaign controversies has forced major parties to drop several candidates in recent weeks. In the past week alone, at least 7 candidates have let go by Liberals and Conservatives over offensive remarks or past conduct. These incidents span anti-immigrant rhetoric, extremist sympathies, and inflammatory social media posts, shaking an election landscape increasingly sensitive to diverse and diaspora politics. One high-profile ouster came in the Conservative camp. Don Patel, a Toronto area Conservative candidate, was dropped after he endorsed a social media post. The post was widely interpreted. Patel was actually 4th candidate ousted in just 2 days. Earlier in Ontario, candidate Mark McKenzie was forced out after a podcast surfaced of him, joking that former Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau should face a public hanging. In Quebec, another Conservative hopeful was dropped for deriding a massive shooting survivor, pushing for gun control as playing the victim game online. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre defended the house cleaning, saying his vetting process is stronger than all other parties and that there is zero tolerance for anyone who acts unacceptably. It's not only the Conservative facing such turmoil, the governing Liberal Party has also had to distance itself from candidates. In Markham, Ontario, Liberal MP Paul Chiang resigned as a candidate after comments he made in January came to light in which he suggested handing a Conservative rival over to Chinese official in exchange for bounty. Liberal leader Mark Carney condemned the remark as deeply offensive. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, the 3-term Liberal MP Chandra Arya was abruptly barred from running for re-election in his riding. According to intelligence officials had raised concern over Arya alleged close ties to Indian government. Liberal Party has not publicly detailed its reasons, citing only new information, but Arya himself insists he was removed because of his outspoken stance against the Sikh Khalistan separatist movement in Canada. Notably, the third major party, the New Democrats, say they haven't had to drop any of their candidates so far. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh said if issue do arise, the party will make the best decision for Canada and democracy. As the campaign continues towards the April 28th election, both Liberal and Conservatives are hoping their quick action will reassure voters that they won't tolerate bigotry or extremism in their ranks. Whether these removals ease the concern of diaspora communities or deepen their anxieties remain to be seen. From Canada, this is Tarun Paul Singh.
And some updates from South Korea now, where opposition leader Lee Jae-myung on Thursday declared his bid for the June 3rd presidential election. Lee Jae-myung is the front runner in opinion polls to be the country's next leader. The elections will be held after former President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment, stemming from a December martial law declaration, was upheld on April. Lee lost by the slimmest margin in the country's history when he ran against Yoon in the 2022 presidential election. But last year, he led his Liberal Democratic Party to a landslide victory in a parliamentary election and enjoys strong support from the Liberal voters. And Ecuador's presidential campaign concludes with voters preparing to head to the polls this Sunday. The race between Daniel Noboa and Luisa Gonzalez remains neck and neck. Backed by former President Rafael Correa, Gonzalez has campaigned on promises of dignity and social welfare, while Noboa, a businessman turned politician, has vowed to end unrest and usher in a new political era. Recent polling from March 31st puts Gonzalez narrowly ahead of 51% support and Noboa close behind at 48%, making this one of Ecuador's most closely contested elections in recent memory. The official campaign period ends on Thursday with a mandated silence before voters cast their ballots on Sunday. And the Indira Gandhi Cultural Centre, cultural arm of the High Commission of India, Bangladesh, celebrated the 75th anniversary of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations at the Indian Cultural Centre, Dhaka, on Wednesday. The Deputy High Commissioner, Pawan Kumar Bade, in his address, congratulated the ICCR family for being the pillar of India's cultural diplomacy for 75 years and counting. He said the ICCR Centre in Bangladesh, Indira Gandhi Cultural Centre, under the aegis of High Commission of India, serves as a hub for cultural exchange, appreciation and dialogue. Well, the highlight of the evening was a vibrant showcase of Indian classical dances and musical performances presented by IGCC's teachers, students and local artists and ICCR's esteemed alumni. The performances mesmerized the audience, showcasing the vibrant essence of Indian cultural heritage. Well, the celebration served as a testament to the enduring legacy of ICCR in promoting cultural exchange and fostering global harmony. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Singapore's food scene struggles as rising costs and fewer patrons lead to wave of restaurant closures. Top seed Yannick Sinner to return in the ATP Tour from his doping ban at next month's Rome Masters as world number 1. And herd of animal puppets on a journey to create climate awareness. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and on to some business news. Singapore's well-known food scene has been battered by closures in the past year, affecting low-cost hawker stalls, mid-sized operators and Michelin-star restaurants who say costs are rising and consumers are spending less. Operators have been hit by rising costs for goods, utilities, rent and salaries. They have fewer patrons, and those who do dine and wine are spending less than during the 2022 euphoria of opening up following the COVID pandemic. The ratio of closures to openings in 2025 and 2024 was higher than before and during the pandemic, pointing to a shrinking sector. Closures since last year have affected a range of establishments, from low-cost hawker stalls to rooftop bars, smoke and mirrors, and a string of Michelin-starred restaurants such as R.D. Daniel, Superindido and Sommer and Brasi. The concern is that closures will lead to a loss of the island's culinary heritage and its status as an Asian food capital. And in Argentina, thousands of retirees and union members gathered in Buenos Aires on Wednesday to protest President Javier Milei's austerity measures. The demonstration, supported by Argentina's largest union, served as a precursor to a 24-hour strike affecting various sectors. Retirees voiced their frustrations over losing purchasing power and essential medications. Milei's fiscal policies have disproportionately targeted retirees, cutting their incomes and benefits. Despite Milei's success in reducing inflation, critics argue that his approach has exacerbated social inequality and hardship. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. Well, Yannick Sinner will return to the ATP Tour from his doping ban at next month's Rome Masters as world #1 after his closest challenger Alexander Zverev crashed to an early defeat in Monte Carlo. Also, 23-year-old Sinner accepted the 3-month ban in February following an agreement with the World Anti-Doping Agency after he failed 2 drug tests. Sinner's absence from the circuit had opened the door for world #2 Zverev to replace him at the top of the rankings, but the German failed to get beyond the quarter-final stage at any of the 6 tournaments he's played since the Australian Open in January. And Gujarat Titans continued their winning streak in IPL 2025 with a 58-run win over Rajasthan Royals in Ahmedabad on Wednesday night. Getting an invitation to bat first, Gujarat posted 217 for 6 in the given overs thanks to Sai Sudarshan's 82 off 53 balls. Jos Buttler and Shah Rukh Khan too scored crucial 36 each. Mahesh Thikshana and Tushar Deshpande picked 2 wickets apiece, but both of them also gave away over 50 runs in their respective spells. Jofra Archer, on the other hand, was really impressive with figures of 1 for 30 in 4 overs. Meanwhile, during the chase, Rajasthan got off to a poor start, but Sanju Samson's 41 off 28 balls kept them going. Shimron Hetmeyer scored 52 off 32 towards the end, but failed to get any support from the other end. This happened to be Gujarat's 4th win on the trot, while Rajasthan's 2-match winning run ended with the defeat. And the World Boxing has set up an interim committee to oversee the affairs of the Boxing Federation of India. President of the Boxing Federation of India, Ajay Singh, will head the committee along with other members, while the Indian Olympic Association will nominate 1 member. The interim committee has been tasked to ensure administrative continuity, managing domestic and international competitions, and safeguarding the interest of Indian boxers. It will also coordinate with the relevant stakeholders and oversee financial matters. The committee is required to submit its first report within 30 days. And unseeded Alejandro Tabilo defeated twice champion Novak Djokovic 6-3, 6-4 in the second round of the Monte Carlo Masters on Wednesday. The win maintains a remarkable 100% win record over the 24-time major winner. Djokovic, who suffered a shock defeat in the Miami Open final last month, had received a bye into the last 32 but came up short against Tabilo. Tabilo has yet to drop a set against Djokovic as the 27-year-old registered back-to-back wins over the Serbian on clay. Djokovic was chasing his 100th tour-level title, while winning the Monte Carlo title would have made the 37-year-old the only player to win each Masters event at least 3 times. And the International Olympic Committee announced on Wednesday that compound archery will be making its debut at the Los Angeles Olympic in 2028. The compound mixed team competition joins the 5 existing recurve events, bringing the total number of archery medals available to 6. It is the first time since archery's reintroduction to the Olympic Games in 1972 that a new war style has been added to the competition. World Archery President Professor Dr. Ugair Ardner also said that it's a monumental step forward for the sport and for the millions of compound archers worldwide who have long sought Olympic recognition. Well, the HERDS, an international public art and climate action project, is taking life-size animal puppets on a journey to major cities in Africa and Europe to symbolize the animal kingdom's flight from climate disaster. Begins in DR Congo's capital, Kinshasa. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code in the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Rana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.